So here's one more story about the pair of aces, but this is not the pair of aces in poverty, this is the pair of aces in plenty. And I'd like to talk about the lack of attachment and how it impacts our children. Attachment's key and poorly understood by the public, by policymakers, and even educators. If the bond with our primary caregiver is ruptured, unsafe, insecure, if they're fighting, frightened, and disconnected due to domestic abuse or chronic depression, this takes a toll on children and their brain development. Here, a young lady called a radio presenter, and she gave her first name but did not give her last name because her father was still a prominent politician in the government at the time. She wanted to conceal her identity, but now her father was in the picture as well from this point on. He was a man who had the money and the clout. She grew up very privileged. Somewhere along the line, her parents split up. Her parents separated Kenyan style. Her mom was put up in a nice place to have custody of the kids. He was one of those dads who was rarely there, but money wasn't an issue. However, when the mom started forming relationships with other men and bringing them home and around her child, Baba got upset and had to punish the mom. He took custody of the kids. The young lady who called explained her dad wasn't really around once she moved into his big mansion, and she was raised by a host of nannies, drivers, and watchmen. She had people who took her wherever she needed to go. They had the money, and she could do whatever she liked. But quickly it got old. It was so bad and empty that she had to make an appointment with her dad's secretary to see him like anyone else coming by his office. And when she was lucky enough to see him, he'd give her a stack of money and tell her he would see her at home. He would be up and out of the house before the crack of dawn to catch breakfast meetings or strike a deal somewhere. Some days he would never be at home, and when he did, it would be late into the night and she would still not see him. Mom had left the picture. Mom got depressed when she lost everything. She felt deep shame for losing her children, her home, and she became the talk of town, so she moved away and cut out all communication. The young lady who called the radio show started to act out. By 17, she had been expelled from 3 schools. Her watchman gave her her first roll of marijuana, and he continued to be her supplier well into her young adulthood. She had attempted suicide. She was sent to rehab twice. She was committed in the psych ward and was visited by a shrink regularly at the time. Because no one is there, but she had money, she bought alcohol, drugs, went out, threw parties, and you name it, that was her life. But eventually her father got frustrated, and it got to the point where he felt he had given her everything, and she was still a mess. He eventually kicked her out. On the phone with the radio presenter, the girl had confessed she was dating so many older men just to spite her father. The radio presenter asked her, "Well, what do you want from your parents? Why are you doing all of this?" She simply said, "I just want my father to see me. I want my parents to see me." This story shows how attachment styles that we learn in our early childhood will greatly influence the relationships we have in adulthood. When the mother or the caregiver demonstrates a well-regulated nervous system, the baby will follow and exhibit the same behavior in their adult relationships. A mother that overacts to triggers, where the reaction is greater than the intensity of the stimulus, teaches the baby to do the same, which carries on into their adult relationships. A mother that underreacts to triggers, where the reaction is much weaker or even non-existent in relation to the stimulus, will teach this pattern of behavior to the baby, who will carry that into their later relationships.